This video is brought to you from the Salesman.org HubSpot studio. Do you want to set better goals in your sales job and increase your chances of smashing them? Then stay tuned. Walter sets his sales goals every year. He lives by the saying, if you don't know where you're going, then how are you ever going to get there? Sam, on the other hand, chooses not to set goals. In his words, he likes to feel free and unencumbered. And the thing is, the brutal truth to all of this is, Walter smashes his sales target every year, and Sam's falling further and further behind. And why is this? Well, it's because Walter starts the year with the end in mind. Walter sets big goals and breaks them down into daily, smaller chunks that are achievable, so he knows where he's going and he can head towards them. Alternatively, Sam's daily routine easily gets bent to the will of others. When Walter has 3 things to do each day that will move him towards his big goals in life, well, he doesn't feel bad saying no to opportunities or the demands of other people when they try and take up his time, whereas Sam agrees to do favors or have his day disrupted by other people in the short term because he doesn't see the risk in doing so. So let me ask you this. When Walter and Sam are both 99 years old, they're in an old people's home, they're on the last legs, well, who's more likely to have lived a full and successful life? Walter, who set goals, achieved them, and had daily discipline, or Sam, well, who didn't set any goals, wasn't focused, and spent his entire life helping other people achieve their dreams while sacrificing his own? Clearly, this is somewhat rhetorical. Walter is going to win the game of life here. So with all of that said, then hopefully a bit of a subtle image of you, yourself, as you watch this, being in an old people's home, pondering if you've had a full life bouncing around within your subconscious right now. Well, let's get practical and look at how you can set effective sales goals that will allow you to live the life of your dreams. So the process of setting effective sales goals requires you to ask yourself 4 simple questions, and I'll include the questions and the examples below this video in the show notes, so I don't have to write out everything verbatim. But we're going to have 1, 2, 3, 4 questions that we're going to be asking ourselves to come up with these incredibly effective sales goals. The first question I want you to ask yourself is, what did you accomplish last year? And do not hold back here. This is super important because a lot of people struggle with this question. You might start off thinking that some of your achievements were somewhat average, but I want you to think of this from the perspective of someone else looking at your life. Because some of the things that you've done may be like lifetime accomplishments for other people. If you manage to just clothe and feed yourself and look after your family for the past year, that could be something that over half of the world's population would really give their right arm just to be able to achieve that alone. That in its own right is literally incredible. If you survived the previous year in your sales role, even if you didn't hit your target, then that's something that hundreds of thousands of salespeople who got fired from their jobs would have loved to have written down as well. You've probably had a lot more wins than you even realize. So let me give you a few prompts here to get your brain working so you can write down some of your accomplishments. Did you hit your sales target? Did you move house? Did you decorate to repair your current house? Did you get a promotion within your sales role? How much money did you earn? Did you pay off a debt? Did you get married, have a child? Did you get through a rough family patch? Did you finally start to get fit? Anything like that, jot it down as your accomplishments of last year. Bragging is allowed. I want you to brag here. I want you to feel good about your accomplishments. Next up, we're going to jot down our disappointments for the previous 12 months. Because it's important to balance these two outright. It's important to focus on the wins that we had and also any downs that we had as well. Because the real reality that we all live in, well, it includes both the ups and downs. The next question is, how do you limit yourself? Because now that you have a really balanced view of the reality that you're living in, it's time to learn something from them. Because what's the point in going through all of this pain and then the ups if you don't learn something from it? Now, depending on the size of your ego, it can be difficult to get this feedback loop of experience life, learning from it, and then sussing out what's been holding you back. Your ego can really get in the way of this. So here's a few potential ways that you might be limiting yourself that, again, might jog your brain here. Maybe you don't plan ahead. Maybe you don't take things too seriously. Maybe you're not standing up for yourself. Maybe you're not following through on things that you say you're going to follow through on. Whatever it is, make sure that you're documenting what your limit is so that you can learn from the previous 12 months. Finally, we get to the big question. What is your most important goal? I don't want to know what's your top 17 goals. I don't care. I don't want to know what your mum or your dad or your partner or your kids want you to achieve. What is your most important goal for the next 12 months? And I find the best way to frame this up is from the book, The One Thing. I love this book. We've had the co-authors and other people from the organization on the Salesman Podcast a bunch of times. But the premise of the book is it tries to encourage you to suss out what is the one goal or your most important goal that if you achieve it, everything else will become easier or unnecessary. So I'm going to say that again. What is the one goal or your most important goal that if you achieve it, everything else will become easier or unnecessary? That's what we really need to suss out on. And that is where you create these incredible sales goals that help you become more effective, not just in business, but in life. So for myself this year, one of the many goals I have is to finally buy some commercial real estate to move this studio into and to build a couple of more studios alongside it so we can scale our production. So I could set the goals of finding the right property, getting a mortgage sorted, finding a production company to help build and design some new sets. And this could go on forever into 900 different goals. But let's reframe this using the methodology from The One Thing. What is the one goal that if I achieve it, everything else will become easier or unnecessary? Well, a lot of these goals that I just quickly outlined for you revolve around capital, revenue, cash in the bank. So perhaps the bigger goal, the more important goal that makes everything else redundant would be just to bring in an extra $1 million in revenue this year. If I could bring in that extra $1 million in revenue, then all of this basically disappears because I can pay someone else to deal with it, to manage it and look after it for me. I perhaps wouldn't need the mortgage because we can pay in cash. I'd be able to move quicker, probably have more options in location and be able to get a better place to start with. I could look to a more premium production company that would probably save me time and mental energy building, designing, and creating the sets. So this one goal here would get rid of all of these other goals and make them all redundant or just generally eliminate them. So let's quickly run through that again. Answer the question, what did you achieve last year? Then what was a disappointment last year? What this does is it helps you build a real, clear picture of the reality that you've just lived in. Next, we want to learn from the reality that we've just been living in so we can create a bigger, brighter one. And we want to understand what we're doing to limit ourselves. And with all of this knowledge in hand, we want to create one massive goal that uses the principles within the book, The One Thing, to answer the question, what is one goal that if I achieve it, everything else will become easier or unnecessary? And for me, it's just adding another $1 million to the bottom line of salesman.org this next 12 months. So there we have it, the 4 questions that you should ask yourself and some examples so that you can set highly effective sales goals. And if you enjoyed this video, why not click one of the videos that are on the screen right now to continue making selling simple.